My fiancé was murdered by her obsessive ex, who got 25 years in prison. I spent years planning my revenge, leaked a fake version of his prison memoir, turned his sister against him, and ensured his parole was denied. I sent him an anonymous letter, letting him know I ruined his life, just like he ruined mine. 5 years ago, I was a different person. I had a good life, great job as a graphic designer, a small but cozy apartment, and a fiancée, Clara, who I thought I'd spend the rest of my life with. We were planning our wedding, and I'd never been happier. That all changed because of one person, Nathan. He was Clara's ex, someone she dated briefly in college before we met. She always said he was intense but harmless. I believed her. I shouldn't have. Nathan had never gotten over Clara. He'd show up randomly at events she was at, send her cryptic messages on social media, and once even left a single rose on her car windshield with a note that just said, "You'll always be mine." Clara brushed it off as him being dramatic, but I could tell it unsettled her. I told her we should get a restraining order, but she didn't want to escalate things. I should have pushed harder. One night, Clara and I were coming back from a dinner date. It was late, around 11 p.m., and we were walking to our car in a dimly lit parking lot. I heard footsteps behind us, fast ones, and before I could turn around, I felt a searing pain in the back of my head. I woke up in the hospital 2 days later with a fractured skull, a concussion, and a fractured arm. Clara wasn't there. She was gone. The police told me what happened. Nathan had followed us that night. He'd attacked me with a tire iron, knocking me out cold, and then abducted Clara. They found her body 3 weeks later in a shallow grave in the woods 50 miles from our town. She'd been strangled. Nathan was arrested shortly after. They found his DNA all over the scene, and he didn't even try to deny it. He claimed he loved her too much to let her go. He got 25 years with the possibility of parole in 15. I was left with nothing but grief, rage, and a body that would never fully heal. My arm never regained its full range of motion, and I developed chronic migraines from the head injury. I lost my job because I couldn't focus anymore. I lost everything. For the first year, I was a shell of a person. I barely left my apartment, living off savings and disability checks. I'd sit in the dark, replaying that night over and over, wondering what I could have done differently. The guilt was suffocating. But then, something shifted. I started following Nathan's case obsessively. I'd check the prison records, read every article about him, and even found a forum where people discussed cases like his. That's when I learned he was up for a parole hearing in just 14 years. Less than I'd expected. The thought of him walking free while Clara was gone forever lit a fire in me. I couldn't let that happen. I wouldn't. I spent the next 3 years planning. I got a new job, a remote one that let me work from anywhere, and started rebuilding my life on the surface. But underneath, I was preparing for something much darker. I studied Nathan, his habits, his family, his life before prison. I found out he had a sister, Emily, who visited him every month. She was his only real connection to the outside world. I also learned he'd been writing letters to her, bragging about how he'd get out soon and start over. The arrogance of it made my blood boil. He didn't deserve a second chance. He didn't deserve anything. I started small. I created fake social media profiles and began interacting with Emily online, posing as a friendly stranger who shared her interests: art, hiking, true crime podcasts. She was lonely, I could tell, and it didn't take long for her to start opening up to me. Over months, I gained her trust. I never pushed too hard, never asked about Nathan directly at first. But eventually, she started mentioning him. She'd say things like, "My brother's had a rough time, but he's a good person deep down." I had to bite my tongue to keep from screaming through the screen. A good person? He murdered the love of my life. But I played along, acting sympathetic, even encouraging her to talk more about him. Through Emily, I learned Nathan's routines in prison. He'd been working in the prison library, and he developed a reputation as a model inmate. He was charming the guards, even getting special privileges like extra yard time. I also found out he'd been writing a memoir in prison, hoping to publish it when he got out. He thought his story would make him famous, maybe even get him a book deal. The audacity of it made me sick, but it also gave me an idea. I started digging deeper into Nathan's past. I found old friends of his online, people he'd known before he went to prison. I posed as a journalist, working on a piece about wrongly convicted inmates, and a few of them were eager to talk. They painted a picture of Nathan I hadn't fully grasped before. He'd always been obsessive, not just with Clara, but with other women too. One guy told me Nathan had stalked another ex-girlfriend in high school, and even breaking into her house to steal her clothes. Another said Nathan had a temper. He'd once beaten a coworker unconscious over a minor disagreement. The more I learned, the more I realized Nathan wasn't just a monster to me. He was a monster, period. And I was going to make sure he paid. My plan came together slowly, piece by piece. I knew I couldn't just go after Nathan directly, not while he was in prison, surrounded by guards. But I could destroy his life from the outside, piece by piece, until he had nothing left to come back to. First, I targeted his memoir. I hacked into Emily's email, Her password was laughably easy to guess, Nathan123, and found the digital copies of Nathan's manuscript she'd been storing for him. It was hundreds of pages of self-aggrandizing garbage, where he painted himself as a tragic hero who'd been driven to desperation by love. I leaked the entire thing online, but not before editing it heavily. I added fabricated details, confessions to other crimes, disgusting fantasies, things that would make him look even worse than he already was. I posted it on every forum I could find, tagging true crime communities, and even sending it to journalists who'd covered his case. The fallout was immediate. The story went viral, people were horrified, and the public outcry was intense. Petitions started circulating to deny Nathan's parole, and the prison launched an investigation into his behavior. He lost all his privileges, no more library, no more yard time. Emily was devastated. She couldn't understand how her brother could write such things, and she stopped visiting him. I watched from the shadows as Nathan's carefully constructed model inmate facade crumbled. He was put in solitary for a while after getting into a fight with another inmate who'd read the leaked manuscript and taunted him about it. I felt a flicker of satisfaction, but I wasn't done. Next, I went after Emily. I know that sounds cruel. She hadn't done anything wrong, not really. But she was Nathan's lifeline, his only connection to the outside world. If I cut that off, he'd be truly alone. I used the trust I'd built with her to plant seeds of doubt. I started sending her anonymous messages, pretending to be a concerned friend who'd seen the leaked manuscript. I told her Nathan had been manipulating her for years, that he'd never loved her, only used her. I sent her fake screenshots of conversations where Nathan allegedly called her pathetic and a burden. I even mailed her a burner phone with a pre-recorded voicemail that sounded like Nathan, saying, "I don't need you anymore, Emily. You're nothing to me." I'd used AI to mimic his voice. It was scarily easy. Emily broke down. She stopped answering my messages, stopped posting online, and from what I could tell, she cut Nathan off completely. I heard through the grapevine that she'd moved away, changed her name, and wanted nothing to do with her brother. Nathan was alone now, just like I'd been after he took Clara from me. But I still wasn't done. The final piece of my plan was the riskiest. I knew Nathan's parole hearing was coming up, and I wanted to make sure he'd never get out. I started writing letters to the parole board, posing as different people, concerned citizens, former friends of Clara's, even a fake therapist who claimed Nathan had shown no remorse during our sessions. I included details from the leaked manuscript to back up my claims, making it look like Nathan was a ticking time bomb. I also reached out to Clara's family, who I'd stayed in touch with over the years, and encouraged them to speak at the hearing. They were hesitant at first. They'd been trying to move on, but I convinced them Nathan deserved to stay locked up. The day of the parole hearing came, and I watched it all unfold through a live stream. Clara's parents spoke, their voices trembling, as they begged the board not to let Nathan out. The board brought up the leaked manuscript, the public outcry, and Nathan's recent behavior in prison. Nathan tried to defend himself, claiming the manuscript had been tampered with, but he had no proof. The board denied his parole unanimously. He wouldn't be eligible again for another 10 years. I felt a weight lift off my chest, but there was one last thing I needed to do. I wrote Nathan a letter. I didn't sign it, didn't leave any trace of who I was. I just wrote, "You took everything from me, so I took everything from you. You'll rot in there, and I'll sleep better knowing it." I mailed it to the prison through a series of anonymous remailers so it couldn't be traced back to me. I don't know if he ever figured out who sent it, but I like to think he did. I like to think he's sitting in his cell right now, wondering who destroyed his life, feeling the same helplessness I felt for years. I'm not proud of what I did, not entirely. I know I crossed lines, manipulated people who didn't deserve it, and broke laws to get my revenge. But I don't regret it. Nathan took Clara from me, and with her, he took the person I used to be. I had to become someone else to survive, someone colder, someone capable of doing what I did. Maybe that makes me a monster too. I don't know. All I know is that for the first time in 5 years, I feel like I can breathe again. I'm not looking for judgment or sympathy, just to tell my side of things. What I did was calculated, cold, and probably wrong in the eyes of most people, but after what happened to me, I felt I had no choice.